stipulation, but, yeah. I didn't realize that was what they were gonna do, but.
That's coming, that's in here too tonight.
We're ready, John.
Okay. Call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on Monday, May 11th at 2026 at 7 p.m. Please rise and join me. I guess we ought to do roll call first, should we?
Roll call?
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Rocco Gonzalez, Mark Piantek.
Here.
Mayor Hagedorn, John Boardman,
Here.
Chuck Watson,
Here.
Ken Shear,
Here.
Chad Briggs, Matt Coleman, Mike Wood,
Here.
Aaron Beckman.
Here.
Jeff Packey.
Here.
Now let's rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the April 13th meeting. If anybody has any additions or corrections, if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the April 13th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. File number 260401, special use permit for 1950 and 1960 Highway A agricultural use.
Yes, good evening, Commission. Your first case that you have before you is a special use permit for the two aforementioned addresses, 1950 and 1960 Highway A. The applicant is requesting an agricultural use. And these are, I should mention, these properties are both zoned C2, but they are the applicant's primary residence. So that they're two single-family homes. There's a barn in the back, and even though they're zoned commercially because they're along Highway A, they are a residence. So the applicant is specifically requesting permission to keep one mule on premises on the property part-time. Our zoning defines this as an agricultural use. Specifically, I've highlighted it here, grazing, breeding, and raising of livestock. And that is a special use, so they're here before you today. The mule will reside behind 1960 Highway A, that's the southernmost property. The applicant eventually wishes to operate a bed and breakfast business out of his home and wishes to offer mule rides as part of the guest experience. And before that happens, just kind of to have the mule on property to train it. And yeah, have the mule on property once a week. So that being said, given that this is the applicant's primary home, during the past couple months, we've kind of been talking about home-based businesses regulations and, having such a thing out of your home and, the requirements that the city imposes on home-based businesses and that, a lot of them don't have to require any special sort of permission. And just to kind of put that to rest here about why this is in front of you, one of the clear qualifiers for no impact home-based businesses that don't require that extra permission are not visible from the street. And I guess let me backtrack a little bit. This red square here is where the mule pen will be behind 1960 Highway A, and where this red circle is on the screen here is this is street view, and you can see from the street, the pin. So the activity will be visible for the street, and it still is required to go through our permitting process. So that being said, some staff comments on this specific application. It's a low impact, not no impact, so a special use permit is required for approval. And staff recommends conditional approval of the special use. Agricultural uses is a broad category that has a lot of things, so kind of conditioning that approval to the applicant's request, which is fairly reasonable at one farm animal part-time on a fairly big lot, I think is a reasonable ask. And so that being said, condition the approval to only allow for one mule on the property at any given time, and then we got some photos here of the pen specifically. And that's all I've got. The applicant, do you want to come up and tell them a little bit about your project?
Please state your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Randy Paley, and I live at 1950 Highway A. And I've kind of had mules my whole life. My parents have been in bad health, and I drifted away from it for like 7 years. And I didn't have any more. And then basically my little niece has got a little girl 3 years old, and my brother's got 2 boys. And it's just a nice little bonding down the road. And Hannah has all kinds of horses and stuff, but it just basically be my mule. The only thing by having it there, you know, if I got it through the day and then over the night and work with it a little bit, it's like any animal that you have. If you're around it and be with it and spend time with it, it's just gonna be a better quality animal, so. And I would clean up after it all the time. And if it was rainy or something, I wouldn't even bring it in, cause I have 15 acres out at Croco with the other animals out there, but I'm not gonna mess with them. I'm just got this one mule that I'm gonna work with. So I only, yeah, and Hannah's, like you said, that's kinda her stock running out there. So I got plenty of room to keep it. And then up at the farm, my dad has his farm, so who knows, I probably let it up there once in a while, but it's just nice to have it, if you can pet it and be around it. I mean, I also have, just like anything you put time into, I have a trick kitty cat. He'd ride skateboard, jump through a hoop, rings a bell, does everything. They said I couldn't do it, but I did. But it's just time. It's what you put into anything, what you're gonna get out of it, so. And I would kinda keep him in the back. I'm not gonna flash him around up front and try to create a problem, but I'll keep it all cleaned up. And I said, back where we're gonna put him, I got plenty of room back there. And we got a little building picked out, and I don't even have the animal yet. He's still over at the Amish, are training him yet, so. But once we get the pen set up, I would keep it all cut nice and looking good.
So which residence were you gonna use as the bed and breakfast?
That 1960.
60?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where that's where I'm gonna keep him, back behind there. There's some trees back there and stuff, so. Like I said, it would just be nice to walk by him through the day and pet him, and my wife, we could, you know, walk him around back there a little bit and eat grass or whatever, so.
Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Any discussion? Then I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve a conditional special use permit for one mule on the property.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the special use permit with conditions as explained by staff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much, and I'll make sure that I keep everything looking real nice and good up after it.
No, I'll make sure you do.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind you will, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, thank you. I appreciate it, everybody.
So this goes before council next?
Correct. Next Monday. So, good deal.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is file number 26-0501, Comprehensive Plan Update, Future Land Use Recommendations, City of Washington.
Yes, good evening. So before you, we've got an amendment to our comprehensive plan, and it relates to an effort that, this has more so been an economic development effort to pursue this, but it is related to planning, as this has been a goal in our comprehensive plan. And specifically, we're going to be talking about Fifth Street and the Fifth Street corridor redevelopment area. This came about after the city contracted with a consultant to put together a TIF redevelopment plan for the Fifth Street corridor. And that is to further a comprehensive goal of enhancing the Fifth Street corridor to quote-unquote be the pedestrian-friendly multi-use corridor that serves as the new entrance into downtown Washington. And so the TIF district will be a new funding mechanism for infrastructure and private-public partnerships, redevelopment efforts, street projects, things of that nature. Something that we have ran into, though, in developing this redevelopment plan is there's a state statute that says no redevelopment plan shall be adopted without findings that, quote, the redevelopment plan conforms to the comprehensive plan for the development of the municipality as a whole. And the consultant that we have contracted with to create this redevelopment plan has found that there are some proposed projects within this district that do not conform to our future land use map. And so we'll get into that specifically. So here is the future land use map, and the red sort of, it doesn't really show up too good. I hope I can make that out. It's, well, just kind of this pink area, a little bit of this red, and then a little bit of the blue right here. So that's Fifth Street, and much of the Fifth Street corridor is under this neighborhood mixed-use district, and that is labeled as roughly coterminous with the existing C1 limited commercial zoning district. It's described as small-scale, day-to-day commercial, retail, and service businesses located along secondary corridors, which makes sense. You know, that's essentially what Fifth Street is. The only problem is that does not, the comprehensive plan ignores what the actual underlying zoning is. So the underlying zoning is our C2 overlay, which is, it allows for residential and commercial uses, reduced setbacks, reduced parking requirements, things of this nature to kind of, deal with the unique nature of Fifth Street and its historic significance. But the comprehensive plan says that this area is best intended for the C1 zoning district. And so we have some of these projects that are looking to maybe utilize some of this TIF funding that could be established in the existing C2 district that exists along Fifth Street. The issue is that our comprehensive plan says that this whole area, the highest and best use is limited commercial. So there's kind of a mismatch between the existing legal zoning and our long-range plan. And so that's what this amendment really is to do, is to kind of center those two things and make sure they're one and the same. And just kind of an additional benefit that this would have is we use the future land use plan whenever an applicant applies to rezone a property. Take a look at the comprehensive plan, and they say, oh, here's the highest and best use C1 limited commercial. So for example, here's a block along Fifth Street, and there's one property along Fifth Street here that's zoned R1B, single family. If this property owner for some reason wanted to come in and say, hey, well, I want to use this property as commercial, the logical choice would be, hey, let's rezone this to C2 overlay. But our long-range plan is saying, no, the highest and best use is actually C1, which is not found anywhere near this property. So it would also help planning staff as rezonings come along in this corridor. So kind of high-level overview about why we're recommending this change. There are several desirable potential users within the TIF district whose projects are not allowed in the C1 limited commercial district. The existing zoning allows for these projects, but the future land use map does not support these projects. This can be remedied with a comprehensive plan amendment stating that the recommended zoning classification for the neighborhood mixed use land use category are C1 and C2 overlay pictured below, and then it would not only allow the redevelopment plan to be ratified, but allow staff to make more coherent rezoning recommendations in the future. I guess the only other thing I want to mention is, this is the special Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that we're having March 22nd at thank you, May 22nd at 10 a.m. I will not be there. I had a vacation scheduled months in advance, so Aaron Griesheimer will be here to answer any questions, and I'll be available by phone to answer any questions if you have any. So at this time, questions, comments, any thoughts?
So this wasn't looked at when we did the comp plan?
I guess not. I don't know.
I thought that's what we wanted down there was limited commercial.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, and I mean, I know this isn't approving a TIF, but it's laying the groundwork.
Absolutely.
For future meeting to have a TIF district. is the idea behind the TIF district for the money to go to the city in order to improve infrastructure along there? Or is the money from the TIF gonna go to a developer to make it more desirable to develop that area, or both?
I mean,
Both,
yeah, that was my answer.
both.
And what is are we going from Franklin Street to Cedar Street?
No,
Franklin
it's
is-
Stafford.
Goes, yeah,
Stafford, okay, goes all the way down, just a little bit past Stafford.
Yeah, a little bit past Stafford, and then
That's right, it does go down there.
yeah, to First Street.
Yeah.
So
But when we talked about, you know, the mixed commercial and residential, I mean, were we just saying that's what it is, so we're just gonna keep that, or were we actually saying this is what we really wanted to have, so that, I don't remember.
I guess I'm not following your question. What do you could you
I mean,
elaborate on that a little
Were
bit?
we trying to just define the area based on what the current use was, or were we trying to define what the future use was?
You're asking like when we established the comprehensive plan,
Right.
what the thought was?
Right. I mean, you weren't here, I know. but-
Sure.
But,
Future development.
so we were still thinking of strictly having residential along that area as future development? Yeah,
It'd be a mixed use is what I.
right. Right, mixed use.
And the comprehensive plan well, I guess I should elaborate a little bit here. There is talk in our comprehensive plan about, you know, consolidate, it doesn't say this directly, but it you know, heavily hints at this, to consolidate our C2 overlay and our C1 district to kind of make those one. And so this is doing a bit of guesswork, but I'm guessing the planners just thought, oh, you know, they'll change that, you know, right after we we submit the plan, and we haven't. It's frankly a low priority item to, you know, to consolidate zoning districts for the city. We have issues that we need to resolve. So, you know, their heart is in the right place. It's just, you know, the plan and the zoning, you know, there's some difference there. So.
One of the problems is with one of the parcels on Fifth Street, and it's probably no secret that there's at least rumors about a potential hotel on Fifth Street. A hotel is not permitted in that zoning district. It's zoned
It's currently zoned now.
C1.
It's
No.
not in the overlay district.
I think it's in the C1, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not correct.
No.
It's not, it's in the C2?
Yeah.
It's zone C1 currently.
No.
No, it's zone C2.
Zone C2.
overlaid right now,
Yes.
but it needs to be C1 to accommodate the hotel.
This is not a rezoning. This is the reason why we're recommending this change is this is a change to our comprehensive plan. So it's a change to the long range plan because there's a state law that says the TIF plan and the long range plan cannot they can't be opposed to each other. And what the long range plan says is it says all of Fifth Street should be zoned C1. That's the best use for this land. When in reality, it's all zoned C2 overlay. So there's a mismatch between what our long-range plan is saying and what is actually happening on the ground.
So if the property were rezoned, this particular property were rezoned to C1, as the comprehensive plan says it should be, it would not be a permitted use at that location.
Correct. Yeah, this whole thing is kind of silly. I can't lie, but it's good to, resolve it and change it so we don't run into this in
So
the future.
this is really discussion about changing the comp plan.
Correct.
What you're really talking about. in the-
Yep.
The whole end of things, okay.
And that requires a public hearing, and that's why we're having a separate meeting for this matter to get that done. So
Change the zoning or?
to change the comprehensive plan, not the zoning.
Okay. Because is all of it currently right now in the overlay district? I didn't think the overlay district went that far.
Everything that's in that dark blue is in the overlay district.
Well, you fooled me. I just didn't think we went down Fifth Street with that overlay district this far. I thought it stopped somewhere short of that.
So there's no action for this, just, accept it in the minutes whenever we need to move on, so.
So what is the course of action then? Have a public hearing for planning and zoning on May 22nd,
Correct,
10 a.m.?
correct.
And if recommended by this board, it goes to,
Well, no, this board has sole approval
Okay.
of the comp plan.
okay,
So council has nothing to do, well, I mean, your city council, but, of actually
I told you your
approving the
opinion
plan.
mattered at the last meeting, or it didn't matter, so I can
Yeah,
understand.
sure.
The council typically passes an ordinance or resolution supporting the comp
Correct.
plan.
So basically I'm still a little confused.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So the comp plan says it has it as C1.
Correct,
Says it should
Says
be.
it should be C1.
correct.
Right.
And we want to
And
leave it
currently it's
as,
C2 overlay.
and that's what we want to leave it as, so we're amending the comp plan to be C2 overlay
Correct.
For future use.
for future use. Okay. That
And
clears it
then
up.
that will, everything with the TIF will work out with that.
Yep.
Is what you're saying.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
the two will be able to coexist, and the TIF and the overlay and stuff like
Correct.
that, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yep.
And you have to assume that the position of this board was never to handcuff that
No.
situation, so you're not changing
Oh,
something in one.
I think that's a good project. The size and scope of this TIF district might have me a little concerned, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about whether or not we should amend our comprehensive plan. And I think it fits in C2 overlay. I don't have any problem doing that.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, the TIF thing, I think it's just good practice to, have your, have your zoning and your future land use plan in sync with each other to a degree, where it makes sense, so.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on anything?
No,
tonight?
just
a
accept it.
Presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners for Aaron?
No, that helped.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Well, I'm getting the feeling I might have to call in, so, and that's fine.
And, I actually had to look up a word to understand what it meant.
Oh, okay.
It's like,
You thought you were reading French?
Was it that coterminous or?
yeah, you pronounced it, but it was.
Yeah, well, I looked that up earlier. I didn't know what that meant. I had to look.
I know
I
exactly what you're
looked up how do I pronounce coterminous and listen to the Google thing. So, yeah.
So,
Third
anyway,
Terminus?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the yeah, go ahead. Does that mean it's contiguous?
It just means it's like the same,
yeah.
pretty much.
Why can't you
Why
say
don't you just
so?
say it's,
There's nothing worse than reading minutes on a weekend and then you don't know what one word means and it sticks with you all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah. Okay,
Okay.
moving on. File number 260502, code changes, downtown parking regulations, discussion, recommendations, City of Washington.
Yes. So, just to give the commission a bit of context, these next 4 items here are a result of the April 20th Board of Adjustment hearing. There were a number of issues that were discussed at that hearing: downtown parking, retail parking. Our sign code that we will be going over. Normally, I would not present this commission the amount of change that you're seeing here, but there was a direct, recommendation from that board. Hey, we need these things resolved ASAP. So that's why we're diving into it at this meeting. So, talking about downtown parking regulations. So I'm gonna got a presentation here, and we'll go with questions after the fact. So C3 Central Commercial Zoning District. So this is contiguous with downtown Washington. It's the light blue on your screen here. Much of downtown Washington was developed before the invention of cars, so parking was not a consideration when much of downtown was developed. Businesses downtown do not need to provide a large amount of surface parking to get business, as most customers in this area park wherever there is availability and will walk to their destination. If every business were to provide the same amount of parking as other parts of downtown Washington would just be surface parking. I guess let me elaborate a little bit on where I'm coming from and the board came from. So at that April 20th meeting, the board heard a request from the Greifes to develop a bowling alley event center complex at the corner of Main and Jefferson, and the request was to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces that they were required to provide. Currently, we currently do not require existing buildings to provide off-street parking, but if you're building new construction, then you need to provide off-street parking. And so those are the rules and regulations that they were asking an exception from, and the board asked to take a look at that. So that being said, this does not mean that parking is not needed downtown. In fact, the opposite. The city has facilitated this need by providing free on-street and off-street parking across downtown. This gives downtown visitors provides downtown visitors with a place to store their vehicle while they walk to patronize various businesses. Providing shared parking also prevents the demolition of historic structures for surface parking. These historic buildings are what make downtown Washington unique and keep visitors coming back. Kind of to summarize that, downtown is a pleasant place to be as a pedestrian due to the street design, wide sidewalks, and each business not having their own surface parking lot. Once again, if all of downtown, if we required existing businesses to provide off-street parking, downtown Washington would look something, like Schnucks probably. So current rules, as I got into, but it hasn't always been that way. In fact, from 1990 to 2016, we did not require any parking in the C3 zoning district. That was changed in 2017, wherein during a series of code rewrites, we introduced this provision about existing buildings are exempt, and if you're building new construction, then you have to provide off-street parking. This is some thoughts that I have about this language is it's not that well written, as you could build a brand new building that would have a low it's poorly written in the way that it doesn't achieve its intended effect. So you could build, for example, a storage use downtown, that has a low parking calculation, and then you could immediately sell that building to another LLC that you own, and then ask for a reoccupancy. And reoccupancy is the key here. Reoccupancy of existing buildings. So it's an existing building, you just built it, but it is, it's a reoccupancy, and you could have a different use, such as, general retail, that would have much more off-street parking. So the code is not very well written in that way, and for what it's trying to achieve here. Something else to note is that this code has not been enforced in the past 9 years that it has existed. Talking to Darren, he didn't even know that we required off-street parking downtown. So this code change, I guess, that we'll get to here is more about preserving the status quo, even though it hasn't been the status quo, but it's how staff planners for the past 9 years have treated parking downtown. And that it's interesting because all of the infill that has been built downtown since this code was adopted meets our parking requirements, but staff didn't say, hey, you have to build X number of parking. The developer just took it upon themselves to build that parking. So 1 East Main here, Andy Understall parking lot back here parking lot back here. And then there is garage parking and off-street parking for the residences who live up here. So, developer just said, hey, my building will probably sell better, so I will provide off-street parking. And by happenstance, he meets our off-street parking requirements. And then for all the other residential that has been built downtown in that time, they all have garages and they all meet our off-street parking requirements. Yeah, okay. So the recommendation from staff is to remove the off-street parking requirement for any use in the C3 Central Commercial District. I just have a few thoughts here. Requiring infill development downtown to provide the same amount of parking as development around our highway corridors is irresponsible zoning practice that ignores the existing environment of downtown. It may also limit infill development that may bring more visitors to the area, increasing the vibrancy. From a economics point of view, parking lots do not pay any sales tax, have low property values, and as a result, barely pay property tax. Restricting development without off-street parking in an area where shared use parking facilities are present is, in planning's opinion, redundant. Before 2016, off-street parking was not required downtown. And just a final thought here, developers are not going to invest millions of dollars into a development downtown if they do not believe their patrons can get to their business or residences, for that matter. Let's see. And I guess with that, I'll take any questions. So.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I guess, Aaron, I do have a few concerns. I understand what you're saying, and I've worked with the zoning ordinance downtown when it was, when we didn't have a parking requirement, and I've
Sure.
worked with it when we've had one. One of my big concerns is scale, right? A lot of our lots downtown are small lots, okay? And the most parking you're gonna be able to, if I build a building on there, you're gonna be required to come up with a space or two,
Yeah.
right? And if I can't get that on my lot, I can go to the Board of Adjustments, and downtown, we can absorb, even now, there's parking to absorb, a few dozen spare cars. One of my concerns is what we've seen in the past 15 years, 20 years, is more what I consider to be real urban development, where a developer comes in, buys multiple parcels of property, combines those into a large piece of property, and now does a larger development or a larger building. And last month, when Mr. Greify was here talking about the bowling alley situation, we never got, we really didn't talk about parking too much in that meeting because that was not our purview in that meeting.
Correct.
We were talking about site distance issues. One of the things, and I did not sit down with his plan and try to figure out a parking count or anything, but my gut feeling, maybe you have, my gut feeling is that facility's probably gonna require several hundred parking stalls
You're correct.
if it was to be built anywhere else in Washington.
Well, I mean, even if it were to be built right now, it
Under our
would be,
current- under our
it would,
current-
yeah, well, I'll tell you, they would be required to provide 416 parking spaces.
Okay. And my concern a little bit is we change this ordinance now to permit that. And if we do or if we don't have a parking problem downtown, we automatically create one. And in my opinion, I think this is an issue that needs to be discussed on a much bigger level than just Planning and Zoning Commission. And I know the city has had discussions, I know the city and Chamber of Commerce were working on some parking garage discussions and things like that. I know there's obviously other players in the city that are probably looking at parking. I'm sure the bank at some point would be. I'm sure if there is possibly a hotel, I'm sure those folks are looking at stuff. There's a lot of things, in my opinion, that are influencing this parking discussion, and I would hate to make a decision here tonight that would send us down a road to potentially create a problem without having a resolution out in front of it, right?
Sure, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if there is a resolution out in front of it where the community as a whole needs to be involved, where the city's involved and where multiple business leaders are involved, that sort of thing, that's gonna take time to come together, right? And I would hate to create a situation where, let's be honest, when you build that big building, people are gonna go and they're gonna park wherever they can park the closest. And if that's in Clary's lot next to the building there at Jefferson and Main that they just built, if that's in the old Drogies lot, if that's all the street lots, you're gonna park where it's closest. And what I fear is that could potentially put some of our smaller businesses that rely on street side parking in a difficult position to be able to have customers come to them. So, I mean, just my personal opinion, I would really like to see this issue tabled tonight for a bigger discussion to happen. And it's not that I am opposed to the idea, I just don't know if we have an answer in front of us right now that I fear we might be creating a problem by approving something tonight.
I think to go from 400 and whatever for this project to no requirement, does that include the property that a potential hotel could go on to, and we're not gonna require any parking? Or we're gonna, I mean, I know there's requirements for a hotel to have a certain number of parking based upon the number of rooms. I think it's 1.5, right? I think if I remember correctly. The other thing is, the Board of Variance said no, because they didn't want to give a variance to parking. But yet they kicked it to us and said, change the rules that could allow this facility to go down there with not getting the current number of parking spots that are required. Well, if you didn't want, I mean, I'm not speaking for them, but my interpretation of them is that if you didn't want to give them a variance.
I think it's just not
lower
their,
the number.
sure, I think it's just not their purview to like, say, to have one opinion or the other on a specific code, and that was kind of their, I mean, for all the issues that we'll be discussing tonight, the Board of Adjustment denied a variance, and so the recommendation was, hey, let's look at these rules, have staff and whoever other stakeholders, take a look at these rules, and we'll try and get a solution as fast as possible. So, I just don't think it's the
No,
Board of
I
Adjustments.
understand. I mean,
Yeah.
and I get it. I'm not saying that. I don't know whether or not they had property owners come and
They did.
They did, and that's what
business owners came and
Yes.
spoke
They
with
did.
concerns.
They did.
I asked Aaron to, when I heard this discussion had happened, I asked him to send me the link for the video.
I just so happened to run into the owner of Andy's. And we said, bowling alley. And she said, it's dead. I said, well, maybe not, because Monday night we're looking at, and she was obviously unaware of these code changes that potentially could take place. The other thing I kind of struggle with is I don't know if a downtown Washington is the right place to put a bowling alley. I mean, if they wanted to put a restaurant in down there, you could probably get a number of parking spots that they have, you know what I mean? But when you're doing as big a project as they're doing down there, it goes back to Ken's position. I mean, that big of a project, to say we're not gonna require any requirement for parking is probably too far for me to go. I mean, I guess if they wanted to take their current property they have now and convert it to a bowling alley, they could do it without any parking requirements. I get it. But they're doing that knowing that there's limited parking down there. I think the current situation of reoccupancy of buildings without a parking requirement has created a parking problem in downtown Washington at certain times. I mean, the other thing that the owner from, and I don't want to speak for her, the owner of Andy's told me was, the first thing their people complain about all the time is lack of parking around that business. And I mean, you just look down that street, I mean, Joe's Deli, Serendipity, I mean, you go down the street, are those the same concerns of those business owners? I don't know.
Joe expressed concerns about it at the variance. He was there at the appeals meeting.
I guess I agree with everything Ken said.
Yeah. Right. And I do too. I mean, I think this is such a big community issue that I think we need to, number one, we only have 5 of us here tonight. And I think there's some people that need to be involved in this discussion that aren't here tonight. And I think we need to involve other shareholders, either downtown Washington Chamber in some discussions, get Darren's perspective historically before he leaves, and just talk about it and see if we can come up to a good solution. Because what I don't want to see is us approve this where, you know, we do away with off-street parking, and now people just park wherever, and you have the small town or the small business owner suffering because we have one larger event center.
Well, he brought up the, you know, the property caddy corner. I think that's what we want in downtown Washington, I think. I mean, I think that's when we envision it. It's some professional retail, you know, if you consider Dennis off retail, you know what I mean? But some professional business down there, and they have the condos above it. I think that's a perfect use for that. And the developer put the parking in there because he knew the businesses that were going in there would want it and need it, as well as the residents. So, I mean, it can be done.
But it's a space that doesn't require 400 parking spots.
Oh, well, exactly, and that's what I'm not so sure we need to develop. We need any project down in downtown Washington that currently requires 400 parking spots, because we don't have 400 parking spots.
Yeah, we don't have.
To John's defense, he called me last week when this was on the agenda, knowing it was gonna be a limited crew here tonight. But my suggestion to him was, leave it on the agenda, have this discussion, and in an effort to table it tonight, involve other
Right.
entities, et cetera, and come up with a better plan. Because again, to Ken's point, I'd hate to sit here and say that, well, half will be okay, or 25% will be okay, and vote on that tonight and pass it on. Is just, we're not doing our due diligence at that aspect. So I agree with what Ken's saying, I mean, with all of us. I just wanted to defend, John said, let's just table it, not have it at this meeting, but I encourage him to keep it on it, have this discussion, and now we have the ball rolling on what we need to do with the next phase, and it'll come back another. And again, I think even council can get involved before it comes back, you know, or whether it's a committee, traffic, downtown.
I am planning on bringing this and another downtown parking issue to traffic committee next month, so.
Yeah. They'll have some input as far as that goes, what,
Yep.
you know.
In the long run, Jeff, I mean, is the city considered putting up a parking garage, say with any of this?
Well, so there is.
Study, go ahead.
Yeah. There has been a study about that, but specifically in moving forward, this is you know, very early stages of you know, kind of getting this together. So we have the downtown TIF district, which was established to you know, get the Bank of Washington going, and that's expiring in 2030, I believe. So the idea is, you know, to kind of work towards a community improvement district downtown where property owners voluntarily buy in, and it's a self-taxing entity, whether that be sales or property tax. You know, can go either way, or both. Some do property tax, some do sales. I'm not sure if some do both, but anyhow, it's a self-taxing entity, and one of the ideas for that community improvement district is to, you know, help fund a parking garage downtown with the funds that it
Correct me
generates.
if I'm wrong, but the study showed anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 a spot.
And I would
You would have built a
frankly,
parking garage for 300 or 400.
frankly,
the math.
that study is fairly old. That's a
Low number.
That's a good number per space for covered parking. Yeah.
And don't we have a CID? Isn't the target area out there?
We do,
Isn't
yes.
CID already?
This would be a different sort of CID though, because you know, that development, it was one property owner, you know, and he subdivided all the different entities, you know, and brought all the businesses in. This one would require a lot more buy-in because you have to have not only half of all property owners, but half of you have to have half of the assessed property value of the whole district. So not only half of the property owners, but also, you know, whatever the county says. You know, let's say the whole district is worth $100 million. I don't know if that's right, but you know, then you got to have $50 million worth of building that signs on to it. So It'll be a, that's why we're starting now, as opposed to right before 2030,
Bank's
because,
the biggest property owner down.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Right.
there's your half of your assessed valuation.
yeah, yeah.
Get the other half of the property owner.
I gotta-
A little more work.
yeah.
I think the first half we can.
But
Yeah.
in the long run, it is a needed long-term.
I agree completely. Yeah, no, parking is absolutely needed downtown. What this change is just to do is to say, hey, maybe it shouldn't be the city's place to,
But Aaron, correct me
say
if I'm wrong, if
what's
you
what.
had a 4-story parking garage at the 3rd and Lafayette parking lot right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the front door is at Main and Jefferson of this building, it's still more than 300 feet away, and it wouldn't constitute anyway.
3rd and Lafayette, like,
The parking lot.
one they
across
wanna use for this
the bank parking lot, US Park, what,
oh.
If that
No,
parking lot-
that'd be fine.
They wanna
this
put
is
their
still
front
more
door-
than 300 feet away.
Their front door was gonna be on the Second Street side
Yeah.
because of the parking. You were gonna
How did we do
enter.
the site distance last week? It was gonna be a 45-degree angle at Jefferson and
Yeah,
Main.
but that wasn't gonna be the
That's-
entrance.
That's the-
That's just the corner of the building.
Yeah, that was just.
They're
site
gonna enter off
difference.
Second Street and you're gonna enter on the top floor and the bowling alley's below because of the
Okay,
slope of
well,
the
I read
building.
that in here, but we made catty corner to Andy's building was gonna be the entrance to that building at council.
No, that was just for sight distance of vehicles coming to that.
Yeah, I believe
Intersection.
Okay.
Steve asked a question about parking, and then
Right.
that's where that whole thing
Yeah.
entered the conversation. But yeah,
Yeah, that was just for sight distance at the intersection. Because of, the emergency vehicles coming in and being able to see.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
But I'm saying.
that's
if-
all it was.
If
was
that was the
just
front
because-
door, it's more than 300 feet away from the parking garage and it's a moot point. But if it's on the Second Street side, then it is that
Yeah,
close.
because
yeah. I've measured it. You're pretty close, but you're within 300 feet, so that would be okay.
We don't have a 4-story parking garage. It's-
No, we don't. No, we don't.
All right.
Do you need
But-
a motion on this then, or we
We
just
probably should do it that way. I think it'd be
motion to
best.
table this discussion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we table the code changes for the downtown parking regulation discussions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Alrighty, thank you.
And Aaron, if
Yes.
we need to get together with the other groups, or however that needs to be facilitated, I don't know that we have to have it as a commission meeting, but we've done this in the past where several of us have served with other committees. So
Sure. Yeah, we'll invite a couple of you all to,
more than just.
if we get together at some point in time, I'll be sure to do that. So, okay. Good deal. All right, another Board of Adjustment remnants. So retail parking changes. So a bit of background for you all. Just read this off real quick. 2017 major code rewrite. Off-street parking regulations were restructured. While the change did streamline off-street parking regulations into one table, it did not change the standards themselves from the 1990s previous code rewrite. So then in December 2024, this board approved changing our retail off-street parking regulations. As city staff determined they may be excessive given best practices and a changing local economy. More online shopping is what that means. So there's less need to go in person to stores. Fast forward 2 years later, February 2026. Staff receive a complaint. Lowe's down in Washington Crossing may be storing excess spring product on their parking lot. Staff investigated and found they were indeed storing excessive material on their parking lot, and as a result, Lowe's was not providing enough off-street parking for customers accessing their businesses. In March, staff informed Lowe's, hey, you got to remove this material. Lowe's complied and removed the material from around 40 parking spaces. Just something of note here, material storage is not formalized in our zoning, yet it occurs across Washington. Think Baumgars, Ace, some of the shed storage places you see around town. That's not formalized, and we're looking to kind of formalize that with a code change in the near future. Staff then advised Lowe's if they wish to store additional material, they can apply for a variance to reduce the amount of off-street parking they're required to provide. And at the April meeting, their variance was denied due to the request not being a hardship. However, the Board of Adjustment did recommend that this board take a look to examine our retail parking standards for hardware stores to see if they were too excessive. And so, kind of going into that, we define furniture, appliance stores, hardware stores, wholesale establishments, machinery or equipment sales, clothing or shoe repair shops, differently than we do general retail. And kind of an interesting example of this is we require JCPenney to have more parking spaces than Schnucks, even though JCPenney, I mean, you know, JCPenney's a larger building, but almost, 40 more parking spaces for JCPenney, given 5,000 more square feet. So just think about the foot traffic those two businesses have, and there you have it. So just kind of reiterating, our comprehensive plan supports this. Amend Chapter 400 to allow for shared or reduced parking requirements for all land uses in all of our commercial zoning districts. And so what these code changes are, I guess, to address some issues that staff have seen with our retail, I guess issues isn't the right word, just more so streamlining, because we frankly, Sarah Skeen, our previous city planner, spent a lot of time with those previous parking changes, and since we have these other definitions of things that might be considered general retail, but because they're other definitions in our zoning are not, what these changes are to do is really just to kind of strengthen those changes that we made in 2024 to have one retail parking definition that we have determined, hey, this is great. We're gonna move forward with this. So that being said, we're taking a look at, and I guess let me elaborate a little bit. This relates to the Lowe's request, because then it means Lowe's would have a lower parking calculation. And Lowe's provided me with some parking studies that they had put together for some of their other locations across the U.S. Frankly, I don't know how relevant that is to Washington, Missouri specifically, but this is. It's kind of a win-win situation in staff's view, because not only are we streamlining our zoning, making it easier for staff to say, oh, you're a retail business? Okay, this is your parking calculation. Boom, you got it. And it also allows Lowe's to store, I don't know, on material on 20 more parking spots or whatever. So they're not getting their full ask, but it is helping them store more spring material, I guess, is why we're saying this is getting done now. Yes.
Aaron, just a brief minute though. I mean, it was like when we looked at the comp plan and stuff too. I mean, we were talking about some of the parking based on, some of that stuff, like say in the 1990s and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
It's like now there's a lot more online.
Absolutely.
Things, and it's like Pennies and even Lowe's and all those. And, whoever complained about the Lowe's things, I mean, I have never been there. I go to Lowe's a lot. You can ask my wife. But it's like, you can sit there, and I have never seen their parking lot very full. Now, if you want to just complain because you can't walk 2 car lengths to get to the garden center because of all their product stored out there, but overall, I have never seen that lot that full. But again, their building and everything else, and we talked about Walmart and stuff too, the amount of space, that you're saving for the parking, for one thing, it's creating X amount of runoff that they have to contain. Absolutely. And it's also creating the oil and the other contaminants and stuff like that we have to try to deal with from getting into the river and those kind of things also, and that was, part of what our discussion was back with the comp plan and stuff too, is trying to get, like you say, the shared lots, or, do we really need X number of, based on, because it's a hardware store or whatever and stuff too, because it's like, I do a lot of online shopping just personally. I get stuff from Home Depot, I get stuff from Lowe's, I get stuff from Baumgars. It's just, I can get it delivered free or very cheaply instead of going out and stuff. But it's like, again, I'm not using a spot. And it's like, that's what our discussion was at that point in time. And that's what I still feel that, like I said, I've been out there Lowe's many times myself also, but it's like, still couldn't understand, when you first talked about it, I still can't understand why somebody was complaining about parking out at Lowe's, because it's never that full. Even first thing in the morning when the contractors are out there, it's not that full. But anyway,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole goal of these changes, is to strengthen that discussion that we had previously about, what's the right number. And I think that one parking space for every 350 square feet is pretty good.
350 square feet, or should it be based upon their retail space and not the square footage of the building? Does that make sense to you? So if I have a storage, my retail space is smaller than the square footage of my building, should we base this upon the actual retail space and not the entire square footage of the building?
who was gonna be going in out there before,
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby?
That was the one everybody kept projecting we were making the change for Hobby Lobby when we did that way back when.
Because they sat there and did their own calculations for actually how much
Right.
individual aisles and whatever was in the back for
have
specific storage instead of just aisleway and
Right.
everything
Have you
else's
seen
stuff,
it
you know.
Where it's based upon retail space as opposed to square footage of a building?
Yeah, absolutely. We can if this
I
board
think we've
feels.
talked about that.
We've talked about whether or not it should be done that way or not, and I don't know.
I would, frankly, I would be in favor of that. I think that's a good change to
I
make.
think that makes sense.
I do too.
So, Aaron, I had a discussion about this the other night with one of my neighbors, and the one complaint that they brought up that I kind of have to agree with some of these is there something in our parking ordinance for controlling sight lines and like how stuff is stored in the parking lot? Because the issue that was brought up is, and Lowe's is kind of guilty of this, I'll throw them out, Baumgars is kind of the same. Some of that stuff is pushed so far out to the edge of the drive lane and stuff that it starts to become a visibility issue a little bit.
Yeah, well, there isn't. We don't even regulate. We don't say that you can store material in the parking lot. Period. And so that's something that I want to work, because it happens. To enforce all that would be a nightmare. But
Fire lanes.
Yes.
Where they can't shove stuff up into the fire lanes.
But you're just talking about visibility. Period.
If you think like the issue that the discussion I was having was like at Lowe's there where they put all their mulch stuff in
Sure.
front of the garden center. A lot of that stuff gets right up to the drive lane or sometimes into the drive lane. And then right on the other side, you've got all the garden, especially this time of year, you got all the flowers and garden stuff. You got a lot of people walking right in that drive lane area, and it makes for a tough visibility issue. Now, driving, if you know that driving your car, you ought to be slowing down, right? I mean, there's some responsibility to driving the car too.
Well, even along that line, I mean, you've got all the product, like you say, all the way to the end of the parking. You've got all their product that is out there to the edge of the concrete. But then if you have somebody come and make a delivery, then somebody's got to go around them. And that's, again, too, where your sight is really, because if you remember, if you're going south, there's that little hook in the roadway on there, and you can't see somebody coming from the other side.
Yeah, I agree. Those are great points, and I think I briefly mentioned it earlier, but that's something that I want to bring before this board in the relatively near future. It's frankly, we got some other things we gotta do, but it's on the list. It's on the list to kind of formalize our process as to what we allow to be stored in parking lots, how that happens, site distance, those sort of things. So that's good to hear that people are having these conversations, and I'll be sure to find best practices for visibility of storage. So,
Question, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
Okay.
Because you don't have to
All
go
right.
into it. Storage containers on parking lots. Do we have a limit as to how long those storage containers can remain on a parking lot?
that will be something that we will discuss with these
Perfect answer.
changes. Not these ones, but the ones we're gonna do in the future.
That was back
Just to reiterate what Chuck's point, that it's never full. I mean, even the day before Christmas Eve, Schnucks, you may have to walk all the way from Applebee's or one way or the other, but it's never completely full in there. So there is wiggle room on what we can do to, require less, I guess. Or, and if we can make the parking lot storage further away from the front door, or, a designated area, or
Absolutely.
something like that. We have wiggle room to do that, especially even those already established establishments.
I look at it a little different too. I know in your shopping centers, if Lowe's takes up too much parking, it bleeds in and it steals parking from Alta-Millers, and, you don't want to have that happening.
The same as downtown, right?
Same as downtown, right? You don't want to have that happening. But at the same time, if the retailer's not providing enough parking, they're hurting their own they're hurting
Exactly,
their own
exactly.
more than anybody else.
Yep, very true, very true.
That was my first thought when we talked about repurposing downtown businesses. Put something in there that requires a lot of parking, there's not a parking down there, your business may not be successful because of it.
Right.
Might learn the hard way, but.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So Aaron, did you want to go over and make these changes in the descriptions tonight? Is that what you're?
Well, I have a few more, just a couple more things to go over real quick on this. So, yeah, so we're removing the definitions for convenience stores and furniture, blah, 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 clothing stores, all that jazz, and just making them, I'll go under the general retail definition. I've kind of gotten a few things here, so got some statistics from the National Association of Convenience Stores. Their average store size is 2,500. So under our current parking regulations, they would be required, an average convenience store would be required 10 spaces, whereas this change would have them be 7 spaces. And there were not great statistics for the average size of furniture or appliance stores or all these other businesses. So I just averaged all of the existing businesses that meet these qualifications, and you got around 5,200 square feet. And so a business of that size would be required currently under our regulations 174 parking spaces, and under our proposed parking regulations 150 spaces. So just kind of a change about the average of both of those under the new parking definition. Just a couple other things. This is not necessarily related to the Lowe's situation, but these are just some things that I noticed in our zoning, and while we're talking about retail parking regulations, we ought to address them. So there are uses in our off-street parking regulations with multiple definitions. This makes the parking calculation variable for staff when determining the amount of parking a use is required. I shouldn't have put the extra use on the end. But so we got 2 different definitions for kind of event centers, banquet centers, bingo halls, and reception halls, and then entertainment, assembly, or exhibition places. Those could be the same thing. And same for restaurants. Restaurant without drive-in or drive-through facilities, nightclub or cafe. And then we have a definition that says drive-in restaurant or establishment serving meals, lunches, or drinks to patrons either in their cars or in the building. That could be a restaurant. So just mixing one of those definitions for each, the banquet center definition and the restaurant definition. So you have one parking calculation for event spaces and one parking calculation for restaurants. So with that, questions, comments on this?
I think my only concern with specifically there to the restaurant, bar, assembly area thing is that's encompassing a lot of uses. And what we see in a lot of communities, when I look at other zoning ordinances and stuff, is places that serve alcohol a lot of times have a lower, how do I say this, have a lower square footage requirement. They're required to have more parking. Because if you think about if you have that type of establishment mixed in with a dining, with a true restaurant, tables and chairs, compared to some place that's more of a nightclub place where I've got people standing, I can have a whole lot more people in the nightclub establishment than I will in the restaurant with tables and chairs.
And they're there for a long time.
And they're there for a longer time. So you run into the situation where their uses are similar in how they're used, but the frequency and the number of people is vastly different sometimes.
Well, maybe what we could do then is, instead of removing that definition, we just remove the restaurant portion, because that's my concern. Is, we have two different definitions that are restaurants. I'm fine with that to just nix the restaurant from that one and have nightclub or cafe for that parking calculation. That's good with me.
But don't you see it necessary to do all of them per square foot rather than, oh, this one here is one space per every 5 seats, this one is one space per 100 square feet?
I
Things vary.
sure.
On the use though, I mean, that's why, is because.
I get it, but my goodness.
It's hard to administer. I agree. Yeah, I guess I just haven't really looked at precedent as to what other zoning codes do for nightclub zoning. So I have no answer.
These are pretty common.
I mean, that's a pretty common, those are pretty common ways to do it.
Based on square footage of the building as opposed to seats.
Both.
Yeah, it is easier. Jeff, I hear your point though, that it is easier for staff to do the square foot calculation because you got to reach out to the person who's building it. How many seats are you having? You know, like, so I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It is easier. I don't know. I guess.
Well, the other thing too is when the building change uses and stuff like that. I mean, if you're still to a square footage, it's much easier to,
Right, the game room becomes 6 more tables, makes a big difference in a restaurant.
Yep. So, well, these are not going before council until all of these changes are not going to council until at least June 1st. So you can recommend best practices for, or actually, here's maybe I could put it on the agenda for our special planning commission meeting when we look at best practices, and we have that as an item for the planning commission to review there, because then it'll be done by the time
First meeting in June.
My only
council looks at it. So
concern, have you heard, is pretty much the full commission going to be at that meeting on the 22nd?
I think so, right?
Are we? Okay. Then I would be in favor of that, because I think some of this, we need everybody here as best we can.
different views.
Yep. So if we're gonna be there, I would be in favor of doing it, tabling it for now, and then
Tabling the whole thing?
tabling this item on
Okay, good deal.
retail parking,
That works.
and then bringing that on the 22nd for the full group to digest. If that would be favorable to the rest of the commissioners.
Are you okay without him being here then?
Yeah, that's the only thing is, like, I'll be available to call in, but I won't physically
Be
be
able to
here.
present.
So
We have pretty good graphs out there.
I guess my recommendation would be, approve the rest of it and just have this specific issue, because technology is kind of funny in this room, and I don't want a situation where, I'm not able to articulate myself.
Let me ask you this, then.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's pushing that we couldn't just table this till next month?
Well, we've already put a public hearing
No, I mean
in
this item to next month. Just
this specific item, the restaurant.
The retail parking.
Yeah, we've published a public hearing, and we have it on the, well, it's not on the agenda yet, but the goal was to have it on the agenda for the June 1st. Now, obviously, if this board doesn't feel, comfortable, that's okay. We'll eat the, public hearing. It's fine.
I can get a credit on it.
Huh?
I can get a credit on it.
Oh, okay, so never mind. No harm, no foul. So-
I would rather do that, is table the file 260503 on retail parking regulations till our June meeting, where we can have full commission here to do
Sure,
that.
absolutely.
You,
Good deal.
you'll be back by then?
I will, yes.
Okay.
So,
I would entertain that as a motion.
Motion to table until the June meeting.
Second?
Motion made and seconded that we table the retail parking regulations till our June meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Just making longer meetings for June.
yep.
I'd rather,
Hardworking group here.
I'd rather.
Guys are.
Okay, next item, file number 260504, code changes, revised design review area. Robert Holstead.
Yes. So before you on screen, well, I guess a bit of context first. So also on the April 20th Board of Adjustment meeting, the property owners over at Elijah McLean's, Mongiabella, requested a variance to have a backlit sign in the design review area. And the design review area is this that you see on screen here. This is the area that our Historic Preservation Commission reviews all improvements towards. And there is a number of, it's in our sign code that references this area and says, hey, you cannot have certain signage in this area to kind of preserve the historic integrity of downtown. And the variance was denied. It was a 3-2 vote. And as a result of that, Robert Halstead, the owner at Montebello, has requested to be removed from the design review area completely. And so this is the current design review area. You can see, well, I guess my mouse is on here. You can see Montebello up here, Elijah McLean's, 600 West Front. And then the proposed revised design review area without Montebello, it's no longer there. So that being said, Historic Preservation Commission, they voted on this earlier tonight. It was a good discussion about, you know, the potential implications of removing this property from the design review area. Our commissioner, or excuse me, chair, Bridget, brought up that, you know, there's been so many renovations over the years it probably wouldn't even be able to be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. So they feel it's apt to be removed. So that being said, this has to go before this board as our historic preservation rules are part of our zoning, and so they are looking for a recommendation to go to council. So,
Aaron,
yeah.
oh, I guess one question I do have, I did watch the Historic Preservation Commission meeting tonight. Excuse me. And I guess one question I would have, and this is just more for my knowledge, is why are they not able to provide a compliant sign? What is the
I don't know.
issue with providing a compliant sign?
Yeah. I don't know. Staff recommended denial of the variance for that very reason. So
So, I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, you know, the documents got submitted to your office.
correct,
You guys reviewed them,
correct,
found it not to be compliant.
correct,
It went to Board of Adjustments. Board of Adjustments listened to the arguments. Board of Adjustments said, no,
yep.
provide a compliant sign. And now I kind of feel like we're changing the rules to make something work. Now, I say that, I did watch the meeting, I did see the Historic Preservation Commission say they don't have a concern with it. So part of me says if the Historic Preservation Commission doesn't have a concern with changing their boundaries, why am I terribly worried about it? But I am a little concerned about setting the precedent that, you know, I don't like the outcome I got, so let's change the rules. I feel a little bit like I feel that way with a couple of the issues we're discussing tonight.
What are all the other, I mean, when it says taking them out of design review area, what other design reviews would we be opening ourselves up to that we no longer have a say in what they're wanting to do?
I mean, really, it's just the signs. The design review area is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance sort of deal. So our Historic Preservation Commission, they are required to review all this red area that you see here. Whenever someone makes an exterior modification or paints their building or adds onto their house or demolishes a structure, Historic Preservation is required to look at that and give their opinion.
This is just strictly for the historic district, is all the design review for historic.
Right.
Correct.
How does
And the signage.
How does the historic district match up to the C2 overlay district? Because remember,
It's-
Elijah
yeah.
claimed to us years ago and wanted to be in it so they could get out of the parking requirement.
Yeah,
for
it's
parking.
pretty.
We did
It's
that a couple of years ago. So my question is, if they're in if they're not, and we denied it, but if they're still in the historic district,
But they're not
not in the
downtown.
C2 overlay,
so I can't get them exactly back to back,
I
but
understand, but they're close, right?
Yeah, so you can see the blue area, that's C3, our downtown zoning, and then the design review area is the red here. So they're pretty close. There's a large portion of, well, let's see, along Cedar Street here, there's a large number of single family properties, but all the rest of it is basically. Well, I guess there's some R3 up here with the senior apartments.
Right.
But the rest of it is, yeah, C3 downtown. And then so Elijah McLean's would be the only commercial 2 property
Right. So to,
in that zoning
to
district.
Mr.
so-
Wood's point, a few, I don't know how many years ago that was, but they wanted to be in downtown Washington to get away from the parking requirements, and it was denied. And here, they're still in the historic preservation district, so they go back to the sign thing. To the best of my knowledge, they took down their old sign. It was refurbished with a light inside, and they want to put it back up. And because it's backlit, it doesn't meet the requirements. So it's their old sign that they originally had. The oval one. The oval sign that they had, yeah.
Here, I got a photo of their
So,
new.
but because it
sign.
has a light in it, it becomes non-compliant. And the only other thing I would want to say is that it wasn't compliant, okay? And it went to the Board of Adjustment for a variance. But the variance board voted it down because it didn't meet the ordinance. But in my opinion, that's the job of the Board of Adjustment, is to grant a variance for extraordinary circumstances beyond the ordinance. And instead, their discussion that night was it didn't meet the ordinance, so therefore they couldn't vote in favor of it. So it kind of contradicted itself that we weren't asking you to enforce the ordinance, we were asking you to give a variance to it, whether you're like it or for it or against it, whatever. But that was kind of a little contradicting to me. But again, I don't think the intent is ill here. I think the fact that the owner had their old sign redone, again, I brought this up at Historic Preservation before. We allow this when someone else doesn't comply, or they don't come to Historic Preservation and say, I want to put a backlit sign up, and it goes up without. They try to do the right thing, take their old sign, refurbish it, put a light behind it, and put it back up, and we're holding them up.
Yeah,
So this, again, I think to your point, we're changing the rules to get out of it. I'm to the point where let the people have their sign, for God's sakes, they're not, that, whatever. But this is the way around it. The letter comes to us and say, take us out of the compliance area, and then it allows it to
So
happen.
Jeff, the easier way to do it is to give them a variance. Because they didn't get a variance, now we're having to
Correct.
change the rules in the middle of the game, but that's what the Board of Variances.
Right. But to my understanding, at the Board of Adjustment meeting, they voted down the variance because they were uncomfortable with voting against the ordinance.
No, I disagree with you. I think the variance was shot down because it didn't meet the requirements of a variance. It's supposed to be because of unusual topography, some unusual shape of the property that's not generally found in the area. It cannot be for a hardship that you created yourself. And this is a self-created hardship, and that's not appropriate to grant a variance. The Board of Adjustments is not supposed to be a super city council, that when the city council sets the rules, they decide, well, but we don't think that rule shouldn't apply.
Okay.
We think we should disregard what the council has set the rules to be. And that's not the job of the Board of Adjustment. Historically, I think they have operated that way, but that doesn't mean that it's correct.
Okay.
If there's a problem with the code, and I guess they're trying to argue, or the argument is, you should be allowed to have a backlit sign in this historic preservation district, then change the ordinance. But don't grant a variance because it doesn't meet the requirements.
Okay. So you're saying the variance was warranted, or not granting the variance was warranted?
Correct.
Okay, all right. But it still leads to the fact that take us out of the district.
I mean,
A lot of layers here, I guess, is what I'm, for a simple sign.
and as
Absolutely.
I said a minute ago, I find myself split had I watched that meeting tonight and had the Historic Preservation Commission stood their ground and said, it's part of our district, we want to keep it in our district, you know, if they would have said, we feel this is important and we want to keep it, this would be an easy decision for me, right? With them saying, essentially, paraphrasing what I watched in the meeting, with them essentially saying, we're not concerned with that property, it makes it a little harder, you know?
Well, in reality, the thing has changed internally so many,
Sure.
you know, externally, you've got historical features, but that's about it, you know, anymore. But,
That's also how buildings age.
oh, I know too.
Yep, yep.
So,
I make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
motion made and seconded that we approve the revised design area and remove
600 West Front.
Yep.
600 West Front Street from the design review area. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? Any other discussion amongst commissioners? Then, let's call for a vote.
John Borkman, Chuck Watson, Ken Shear,
No.
Mike Wood,
No.
Jeff Pecky.
Yes.
This is have it.
Did everybody vote? I only heard 3 votes.
1, 2.
Or you
Well,
didn't?
John voted yes and Chuck voted yes.
No.
No.
No, you didn't. Not necessarily. I made the
Can
motion.
you start over and
Take roll call again. From,
John Borkman,
No.
Chuck Watson,
yes.
Ken Shear,
No.
Mike Wood,
No.
Jeff Pecky.
Yes.
So, no's.
So by our vote, we have denied the request.
Yeah, so that recommendation will
Go to the council.
go to the council, so, good deal, thank you.
Okay. Next item, file number 260505, code changes, sign ordinance discussion recommendation.
Yes, so this is directly related, let's see, where are we here? Directly related to the last agenda item, but kind of, it's a broader conversation than just Mangiabella or Elijah McClain's. And this is to amend our sign regulations to allow backlit cabinet signs and let's see, electronic display signs, LED signs in the design review area that we just looked at. So there was a lot of discussion about, Elijah McClain's location. Hey, we're not downtown Washington. We need this extra visibility. And maybe these signs aren't necessarily appropriate in the rest of downtown, but there might be situations where they are appropriate. It should be on more of a case-by-case basis. So previously and currently, backlit cabinet signs not allowed in any city historic district, design review area, or any other properties on the National Register of Historic Places. And same with electronic message display signs. And that is these areas. So this has the design review, this map has the design review area, but it also has our historic districts. So some additional areas. Most of them are residential, but of note here, you've got the VFW and the Bush Brewery are in this area as well. So this would be a change to go from they are completely prohibited to case by case. They go before backlit, neon, and electronic message signs go before this board and then city council. So a bit more bureaucracy, but you know, we've been having a lot of discussions about this issue, and I think that given council input that I've received and input from the Historic Preservation Commission, this is a good happy medium that staff is happy with.
So I guess my only concern is I don't like to see us making things a special use permit, because that takes away any of the guidelines that we should have in place and just leaves it up to interpretation for this month, next 6 months from now, it may be somebody different. There's no consistency, I guess is what I'm getting at. And
Well, I see the only exception to be as technology changes that we get to that point, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like what you're saying, it's like, until we get to that point where we're starting to see technology change, that we make these special use permits and then go back and start looking at the code to identify corrections.
And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about signs in this commission over the years. Back when the Bank of Washington and that office building across the street, put that one up there, and the number of, Darren was involved with the discussions on that, on the number of nits that it had, and how they had to buy an instrument to go measure that, and, you know, we were spent hours talking about that and trying to figure out what's the parameters, and that was a technology thing that was coming on the market, you know?
Right.
And I get maybe we need to look at that, but I just don't have a warm fuzzy feeling about it. And anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm open to whatever discussion the commission would like.
So would this also include neon or LED neon-esque signs?
Yeah, that was part of the discussion at Historic Preservation, is we realized we don't have a definition for neon, so that would be something that I would add after this meeting. That was part of their recommendation. I should also mention Historic Preservation recommended approval of these changes.
And digital display boards as well?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Currently, the library and Emmanuel Lutheran, are they in the
Yeah.
district?
Mm-hmm. Yep. They
I
are.
mean, I think those are appropriate, don't get me wrong. But if St. Peter's Church wanted to put one of this electronic display board up, they'd have to come before you all and get a special use permit.
That's what these changes are saying.
I don't think it, I mean,
to John's point, I made this at Historic Preservation, it's a different Historic Preservation, or it's a different planning and zoning, or it's a different council in 5 years. But I also think that technology supersedes anything we can put in a code that says it should be this today, and it's still gonna be that way in 5 or 10 years. So in that case, the special use, I'm with you. I don't want a special use permit every single time something comes forward. It's gotta go to you, you gotta discuss it, it's hard feelings, it comes, you know, we wanna try to eliminate that. But in this case, I agreed with then, meeting before. I think it's, at this time, I think it's the right thing to do, so you can. It's right for St. Peter's.
what kind of sign's gonna go up at a potential hotel?
Right. Well, here's my problem. If we don't outline it in our
That's what I
code,
mean, that would be, I mean.
right, if we don't outline it in our code, we're gonna get a sign you don't want, and in this case, it's a special use permit, and you're gonna have
Well,
ability to talk about it.
with the hotel, because they're gonna want TIF assistance, that can all be part of a development agreement that says, I don't care what the code says, even if the code allows a backlit, whatever the sign is, we're not gonna allow that at that location if you want TIF assistance.
Too big, or, you know, or.
Right.
Size or colors
Size,
or
brightness, whatever.
Am I correct that with the TIF, that in a TIF district, historic preservation's recommendations become mandatory as well?
if it's anywhere within that historic preservation district, it's still mandatory review.
But not mandatory compliance.
No, it's always voluntary compliance.
And I get what you're saying, Jeff, too. You know, it's just that it's more cost, it's more work for us, but,
Right.
you know,
Well, essentially for everybody, because it's gonna have to go to, start at downtown Washington, right?
Yep.
Or downtown, not, the historic.
Historic
commission.
preservation,
Sorry,
right.
historic preservation. I got all my
Yeah.
commissions and towns mixed up here.
Yeah.
Then it's gonna come to us, and then it's gonna have to go to council.
Yeah.
And a public hearing for you and for council on each one of them.
Just council.
Oh, no public hearing here
No.
No,
for a special use permit?
no.
No.
You're the lucky one.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Any
I-
other
oh, sorry.
comments? Questions? Anyone in the audience like to speak?
I guess, well, so let me mention one more thing. There was one other change I forgot to mention. This is not necessarily super related, but I just noticed there were two C3 definitions. I mean, they were the same. They were both 75 square feet, but just cleaning that up and shrinking our maximum total, the maximum total square feet you can have a freestanding sign. So like think just out here, the bookstore, that type of sign, just shrinking that to be more, so you don't, I mean, not that 75 square feet is giant by any means, but just, more appropriate for downtown. So, yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a question. I can just try to formulate it in my mind, but the new place that's dispensary, that marijuana dispensary there on Madison Avenue, is it gonna be zone, I guess it's gonna be addressed off of Madison Avenue? Or is there? Caroline, okay. So I'm assuming there'll be some big sign out facing Highway 100 or 47 or whatever and stuff there too. So, I know the same thing when that, was that TUAC was built, and there was a lot of comments about that sign and stuff too. We have enough definitions to cover something from being too gaudy out on that one and stuff, being it's gonna be a,
Well, they, in theory, could do a 50-foot tall, 250 square foot freestanding sign, and our zoning would allow that, in theory. Are they going to do that? Probably not, but if they really wanted to maximize, the total number of square feet, our zoning would currently allow that, so.
Welcome to Washington.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see if we can pull
Smoke
that
them
up.
if you got them.
Yeah, so along Highway 147, maximum area of, or wait, hold on. Did I get that wrong? Maximum, where's?
Maximum height's 50 feet and maximum
square foot is 250.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yep. Gotcha.
Okay.
Anywho, yeah.
No? Okay.
I'll move approval of the code changes.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the sign ordinance code changes as presented by staff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, file number 260507, preliminary plat, Parkway Manor, Lot 3, Plat 2, at 416, 420 Hill Street.
Yes, so this is just off of West 5th here on Hill Street, this cul-de-sac here. And this is a zero lot line subdivision, subdividing a duplex, turning it from a duplex into a single-family home, utilizing those code changes we made to R2 a little bit ago. Everything is compliant. Yeah, I don't have any issues with this, so.
We've seen it before.
Any questions, comments from commissioners? Anybody in the audience? Then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the preliminary plat for Parkway Manor, Lot 3, Plat 2. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Last item is the other business, Franklin County subdivision.
Yes, so we got two subdivisions out in the county to discuss real quick. First off, we got Renaissance Place. This is Keith and Judy Radcliffe out there off South Point Road. The city has been heavily involved with this. We have worked out a development agreement for part of the construction of the East-West Parkway. This little, where's my, is this on? It's not on. Yeah, here we go. This little corner up here is going to be part of the East-West Parkway, and then the aim is to kind of snake it through this property right here and connect it to North Goods Mill Road. Yes, there we go. So, you know, that being said, Charles has to work out some things in relation to how this plat actually lays out, so it's still ongoing and has not been platted yet at the county, but it's a work in progress, and they have submitted a plat to the county. So
And we don't vote or anything.
no, this is just informing this board about. So, and if you have any comments, you know,
The only comment is, they're gonna remove the dam for the lake there, or the road gonna actually go across the dam?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's where it's at.
I know, that's it. It's like,
I
wouldn't-
think that's the hump, and I
think
think that's
this
the
is-
curvature is the dam. I'm pretty sure, Chuck.
if you look,
think-
this is the water.
That's the water, that's the lake, I think.
Right, that
And
is the
that's-
dam.
That's the dam right there.
That's how I looked at it, but I can't promise you that's what they're gonna do, but that's how I looked at it.
That's how I see it too, but I wouldn't think you would wanna put a road on a,
And it's got to be 50-foot easement.
In Franklin County?
I don't think it has to be. I think that's something the city said, hey, you ought to have this amount of right of way.
that's kinda what they're showing though.
Right.
Yeah.
At the South Point Road, right at the intersection
show
of
it right
South
at
Point
the
Road,
intersection.
they're showing it at 50 feet.
Yeah. And that was city staff who said, hey, you ought to
Okay.
make the road this wide, so, for our right of way.
You had another one? Because we don't.
Yes. The other one, this is just real quick, Clecamp subdivision. This is on South Beaker Road, after it intersects with South Point, or I guess not South, just it's Beaker Road. After it intersects with South Point here, it's off of our kind of periphery zoning map. And the applicant here wants to do 2 3-acre plus lots and 3 20-acre plus tracts, which I learned something new when I got this plat from the county. Apparently, if you are subdividing in the county, you do not need a preliminary plat if you are altering parcels bigger than 20 acres. Like, they just don't have to abide by their subdivision regulations. So that was something new that I learned. That was kind of interesting. So, you know, if this were in Washington, we would not accept this in a million years, but you know, just thought I'd inform you about what's happening. So I don't have any details about why they're splitting this or what the deal is, but just letting you know. So
Anything else? If not, I can entertain one last motion.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Motion made and seconded to adjourn at 8:38. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
thank you.